Thank you so much, Mary Jean, and thank you everyone for having me here today. Today it is my honor to have the opportunity to introduce Lieutenant Governor Cyrus Habib to all of you. I think it's one of his first times at a roadmap event. And Lieutenant Governor Cyrus Habib is a leader in advocating for equitable access to higher education. He grew up in East King County, and I wanted to tell a story of how I first got to know the Lieutenant Governor. A number of years ago, his mother ran for a judge clerkship. She was one of the first Iranian women to run for a position like this, so our community really rallied around her. And one of the stories she told during her campaign was how, as a parent, she had to work so hard and advocate in the system just to ensure that her son had the same equal access to education, to the point where she had to go down to the schools and go to the playgrounds and make sure that her son was having the exact same experience as everyone else in the school. So I know the work that Cyrus does for our communities and for our states come from the heart, and I know that he would agree with me in saying that his parents, and particularly the advocacy of his mother, is a huge part of what has gotten him to the place that he is today. So I do also want to mention a couple of the other things before I turn it over to him that he has done in his role as Lieutenant Governor. Lieutenant Governor Cyrus Habib is responsible for supporting an initiative to improve access to higher education and creating a statewide college-going culture. He's been really vocal about access to public schools and higher education for all children, not just some children, and has been really explicit that when we say some, calling out what does that mean and what are the implications of that. And in his work, he's also advocated for public-private partnerships that pay for advanced placement and IB exam fees for low-income students. So he will tell you a lot more. There are many things, other things that he's done, but please join me in welcoming him today. We're very honored to have him here to speak to us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Roxana. Thank you to Mary Jean. Thank you to all of you guys. What a meaningful and warm introduction. Anytime I get to hear about my own mom is wonderful. She's my hero. You know, she started her work in South King County as a lawyer in South King County as a public defender. I'm so proud of her now that she is a King County Superior Court judge and is able to bring the wisdom that I benefited from when she was my 24-hour-a-day pro bono attorney at home, teaching herself disability law, which wasn't even really a thing quite yet, and bringing that wisdom now to the bench. I want to thank all the partner organizations that make the Roadmap Project what it is. You all know better than I could ever express to you how important it is that we take a collective impact approach towards expanding opportunities for every kid. I know from my own experience that it wasn't just my mom, it wasn't just my dad, it wasn't just my school teachers, it was the schools, it was critical state services, it was community organizations, it was the State School for the Blind, it was nonprofits that would produce things like Braille Scrabble and Monopoly. It was a private sector that would put together software solutions that allowed me to learn how to use a computer on my own as I grew older. So we know that when it comes to every kid, it is truly a failure of imagination when we as adults don't find a way to come together and through our collective impact create a roadmap for every single kid. So I want to thank each and every single one of you guys for doing that, and I particularly want to say, because I know it's a focus for us right now in this month, that at no time could it be more important that we speak with one voice than when we speak on behalf of the most vulnerable young people out there right now, those whose very basic rights have been toyed with in this country, those who are every bit as American as I am or you are, and those are those for whom a Clean Dream Act should and will be passed by Congress. Thank you for coming together. Now I want to be a little provocative, and you know, I was thrilled to hear what Shelby was saying, and then I was like, oh, okay, well maybe I'm going to be less provocative than I thought, because I think I've got a lot of allies here in the room. But I'll tell you, what I'm about to say is viewed as pretty controversial, believe it or not, around the state, and it's viewed as controversial by people in both parties. And so let me tell you what it is. You know, part of what I do in my office is focus on higher education, and one of the reasons that we decided to do that is because as I ran statewide, I ran a 16-month campaign for lieutenant governor. As I ran statewide, I would hear this sentence over and over again. And you know when you start noticing something, right? When someone brings your attention to it, you start hearing it everywhere. And I was hearing it from Republicans, I was hearing it from Democrats, and here's the sentence I kept hearing. Quote, college isn't for everyone. Now, was that sentence said in a mean-spirited way? Was it said with cruelty? Was it said with racial animus? Was it said with anti-disability animus? Or sexism at its heart? I don't think so. I think it's said from a place of kindness, from a place of a lot of times of pity. And I started to get kind of irritated, and I was trying to process my own emotional responses to all this. Why am I so bothered by this, right? And I realized there are a few reasons why, and I want to share those with you. Number one, you know, you just heard about, from Roxana, you heard about my childhood, right? I became blind at age 8 years old, and I heard in the statement, college isn't for everyone, the echoes of what had been said to me so many times. Yes, on the playground, when it was, you know, well, it's dangerous for him to play with other kids. Why don't we, you know, keep him by the side of the school, and the other kids will play, and, you know, he'll join them back again in the classroom. And my mom went to the principal and said, you know what? He may slip and fall and break his arm, and that's a fear any mother has. I could fix a broken arm, but I could never fix a broken spirit. My son is going to play with every other kid out there, because she knew that recess is for everyone. Then later, when I was in middle school and high school, and there were classes in chemistry and physics and advanced placement courses, and the school administration would come to us and say, look, this isn't actually technically required, or why doesn't he just be the note taker for these kids? He doesn't need to do these experiments. But my parents knew better, and I had great teachers who also knew better and pushed back. And I can tell you that when people say college isn't for everyone, right at the top of their list, I imagine, are maybe 3-time cancer surviving, fully blind Iranian Americans from a mixed religion immigrant family. So I started to hear all that, you know, so that bothered me. So then the second thing that bothers me about the sense college isn't for everyone is that, you know, when I always ask people, because I like to, you know, be polite, you know, I like to give people the benefit. So I always ask them, oh, okay, so do you mind if I ask, did you go to college? You know what's shocking? It's absolutely shocking. Nearly every person who says college isn't for everyone went to college themselves. Okay? Try it out sometime. Get in this discussion with people. Because I thought, well, maybe what's happening is that people out there are saying, look, like, I'm doing great, I didn't go to college, why are you telling me I should have gone to college? And that would have been a waste of my time. But no. They almost always went to college themselves. So then I thought, okay, all right, well, I know what's going on here. Maybe what's going on is that they went to college and they think it was just a huge waste for themselves. Like they made a mistake and went to college, got a degree. And so they're definitely not going to send their kids to college, right? The person talking to me, the person saying college is for everyone, obviously is not going to send their own kids to college because they're the ones saying burdens kids with debt, you know, these degrees, you know, what good is it anymore? You're studying these things, everything is technical, why would you do it? So I say, well, so what are your kids doing now? Oh, one of them's going to UW. We're sending the other one back east to go to Tufts. I'm not kidding you. So again, I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but the only conclusion I could reach is that they don't mean themselves or their own kids. They're talking about someone else's kid. Right? When they say college and Brown, they're talking about someone else's kid. So then when I challenge them about it, they say, well, look, okay, but my kid was really excited to go to college. You know, you talk to some of these kids out there, and they don't want to go. And you, Cyrus Habib, the elitist, you're trying to tell them that they've got to go, but these 15 or 14-year-olds, they don't want to go to college. And I'm like, were they born that way? Is there a college-going gene? So it turns out that by the time you're 15 years old, you've heard from a lot of adults already. Right? You've already been told by society, by politicians, by teachers, by your parents, by your communities, what kind of a kid you are, what kind of a family you're from, what kind of a community you live in. Well, that's not us. I'm not the kind of kid that would go to college. That's not for people like me. And I've seen it, and I mean, you know, we're going to talk a lot about racial impact, but think about kids with disabilities. You think kids with disabilities grow up in this country being told that college is for them? I mean, so it's just crazy to me that when people say, well, a 14-year-old or 15-year-old doesn't think college, you know, they don't want to go, as if that was genetic. So look, my belief is, and I want to, this is the third, and I think, you know, so I've talked from the heart, I want to talk from the head for a second and say, the other reason it bothers me is because, and you heard some of this from Shelby already, I mean, the data's out there about the kinds of jobs that are going to be available, not just now, not just in a year, but in 10 years, right? Because if you're a 15, 16-year-old kid, you got to be thinking about not just what job's going to be there for you when you graduate high school, but long term, right? So we know that 4 out of 5 jobs that went away as a result of the Great Recession were ones that did not require college education. 4 out of 5 of the jobs created since the Great Recession are ones that require a bachelor's degree, and nearly 100% of them are ones that require some type of post-secondary education. So we know that. And we know that, you know, it's like when people say, you know, well, you know, you might remember that Speaker Paul Ryan said earlier this year, it is presumptuous to say that every person wants to spend their money on health insurance. Health insurance may not be for everyone. It should be your choice to get health insurance. Let's give people money and let them choose. And question, I mean, I'd love to, if I ever met Paul Ryan, I'd love to ask him, I mean, did anyone in your family, I mean, everyone in your family and everyone you socialize with wants health insurance. Who is it out there that doesn't want health insurance? Or it's like when we talk about food stability and access to food, people say, well, you know, but in these communities, they don't want this kind of food. They don't want food from PCC or from Whole Foods or whatever it is. So we know what the nutritional data is, we know what the healthcare data is, and yes, we also know what the workforce preparedness and economic data is on college. Okay, so then people come and say, okay, I agree with you, but what you mean when you say higher education, Cyrus, you don't mean a degree, right? You mean any kind, you mean like a certificate in something. So we can agree. I get it, we can agree. But what you mean is this, right? Like, go get a 6-week certificate in a very narrow vocational area for a specific employer, and we can say that's higher education. Now we all agree, college is for everyone. Well, the point of what I'm trying to tell you is that the economic data out there, it's not like it was a one-time switch with the Great Recession. We are in the midst of a massive transition. And just as when the tractor and other technologies changed the agrarian economy in this country, You know, it used to be, over 100 years ago, was that 40% of our workforce was working in agriculture. Now it's 2%. We're making more food. Okay? So that change led to high school. And I guarantee you, there were people out there saying high school isn't for everybody. And they would have looked at me as such a high school elitist. Well, the person saying that was probably going to high school or sent their kids to high school. But here's the thing. This knowledge economy means that things, you know, jobs are getting disrupted all the time. And if we prepare kids and we say to kids, you know, okay, just get a certificate in this one thing because they're hiring today, that's renting, and renting needs to be affordable. But the long-term move from survival to prosperity is the move from renting to building equity in your future. And that's what a college degree does. Because, you know, people would think if you went back, let's not go back 100 years, let's go back 30 years. Let's say I were in Michigan, or I were in Ohio, or I were in Pennsylvania, and I were out there saying, hey, you know, auto workers here, maybe we ought to connect your apprenticeship with a college degree. Cyrus, you just lack imagination. There are good jobs right now in the auto industry, great jobs in the steel industry. Go to Aberdeen, there's great jobs in timber. Are you crazy to want to send people to an expensive college? And I'll say, well, look, what if something were to happen where through a combination of technology and trade, these jobs were to go away? And they'd say, well, that's no problem. You know what would happen? Is people would just go back and get a new certificate. And I would say, well, what if instead they were to end up getting into opiates and getting depressed and having social decay all around the state, all around the country? They'd say, that will never happen. That's crazy. You're crazy. You're such a pessimist. So we know that white or black, immigrant or 10th generation American, we know the formula to the middle class. And we know that college is and should be for everyone. And I'll tell you, it's also like, it would be, imagine what a massive coincidence it would have been if everyone in Bellevue had been born with the college gene. Like, that's what people want you to believe, right? That like it's a free choice. That just everyone who goes to college just happen to be born that way. And the ones who don't, we should just tell them, that's okay, the economy will be fine. But we know it won't be fine because we know that jobs get disrupted rapidly, whether it's autonomous vehicles, autonomous stores, grocery stores. This is so crazy. 3 weeks ago, and we just tweeted the photo online, I went into a fully 3D printed building. Whole building was 3D printed. So every job, building and construction trades, manufacturing, they're all going to change. So here's what we're doing about it at the state. In my office, I can tell you, what we're doing in my office is, mine is not a legislative shop, it is a programmatic, tiny little economic development agency. And so you heard already in the introduction Roxana gave, when I learned earlier this year that Congress, through failure to pass a budget, had not appropriated the money for kids on free or reduced lunch to have their advanced placement international baccalaureate exam fees covered. These are the actual exam fees, right? So kids sitting there taking the AP course, AP Chem, AP whatever, computer science, AP English, but then the actual exam costs money. So it used to be there was a subsidy for that, Congress didn't appropriate it, and I figured out, okay, we can't get the money in time for the legislature for these kids. They're sitting in class right now, wondering, can I take the exam, can I get college credit? So we created a public-private fund out of my office. Through the help of some of the Roadmap Project partners and others, we raised a combined public-private fund of $850,000 in like a month. And we went out and we told every kid in the state on free or reduced lunch, if you want to take AP or IB exams for college credit, you can do it for free. And guess what? In May, over 15,000 kids took us up on that offer. Now, we just announced yesterday a first of its kind statewide fellowship. We're calling it the Washington World Fellows Program. This is to give kids who would not otherwise have the opportunity the chance to go to Spain in the summer between their sophomore and junior years of high school. and work on their Spanish. They may already be heritage speakers or may have just studied Spanish, but go to Spain for 6 weeks, study Spanish, and get college credit through a partnership with Central Washington University. And then we would build on that to continue their college readiness in partnership with College Success Foundation, AVID, hopefully with all of you guys and your organizations as well. And then finally, a program that we're just now starting to work on, because it's not just about the pipeline. I get it that, you guys may be surprised to hear this. There are nearly 750,000, if you just listen to this one statistic, there are nearly 750,000 Washingtonians with some college. They've taken some college, but no degree. So we just entered into an agreement with Western Governors University, and we're in conversations with others, including labor unions, employers, and other 2- and 4-year universities, to create what we're calling the Complete Washington Initiative, which would be a program for online bachelor's degree completion for Washingtonians who are working adults, or just adults. Because the idea is that's a population for whom getting access to extra childcare is particularly difficult, leaving their job to find the time, if they even live near a college, is difficult. So we want to use quality online higher education to complete people's degrees and get them a bachelor's degree in a field that makes sense. So for example, someone who's done an apprenticeship in the building trades, let's apply that apprenticeship towards a bachelor's degree so that when 3D printing does come, that person can make a transition into an engineering field or into construction management or advanced manufacturing, which may require a bachelor's degree. We could use your help in designing this program. It's called the Complete Washington Initiative. We're just at the beginning of it. It's around adult re-engagement and college completion. So that's what I'm doing. The legislature has got a whole host of different proposals out there. The governor has as well. Funding, I love what Mayor Durkin has done. We absolutely need to do that at the state level. It can be done. In Tennessee, a Republican governor and legislature passed the first free community college program. We can certainly do it in Washington State, but we also need to focus on completion once students are in there. You heard the statistics, particularly for students of color. I can tell you it's true for students with disabilities as well. So we need to we need to hold our universities and colleges accountable to make sure that they're not only providing the academic quality that we insist on, but also the support. The way I said it to the president of Eastern Washington University, I said, I know you all know how to do this because you do it for your athletes. You do it for your athletes, right? There is no way an athlete is not going to get through and get the support they need. I said, so do it like there's money in it for every kid. Do it like there's money in it for every single kid, and then you will get every college kid the particularized support they need to navigate college, particularly those who are first in their family, and particularly those who, for so many other reasons, those for whom I'm so proud we passed our own state DREAM Act, all those who need the extra sorts of support in a collective impact the way you all do. So I want to thank you for being a part of this discussion and really leading it in a critical part of our state. I want to tell you how proud I am to be here and to have been asked to join you. And I want to offer my help and support as an office, and I want to also call upon you for yours as we develop an agenda where we can say to everybody, we understand that we need to improve on affordability, on accessibility and convenience, but as we do that, we won't deny the problem. We will treat every kid like they're our own kid and say college should and will be for everyone. Thank you so much.